sharing our stories connects us. Listen and be connected. Join us for the Conversation meeting weekly at the intersection of community and culture. Hosted by Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter. And if it's Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, and it's noon, and it's WMNF, it must be the Conversation. We are so happy that you decided to share the next hour with us. Today's show is going to be enlightening. It's going to be wonderful. I think at the end of the show, you're going to come away with a new appreciation for your two hosts, one in particular. And I'm going to introduce him to you now, my co-host and partner in crime. Although we don't crime too much, Joey, do we?
No crimes here.
Joe King Carter sitting next to me on the microphone today. Hey, Joe.
Good afternoon, Mario. It's a pleasure to be with you, as it always is.
Or as DJ Spaceship would say, hey, Joe. I think he might be listening. He might be lurking somewhere around here because, you know, we've got an upcoming event that we like to share with everybody right about now. It is August the 18th at 1 p.m. from 1 to 3 o'clock. It's a fundraiser, but more than that, and you know, you can't spell fundraiser without fun, right, Joe? Huh?
That's correct.
See what I did there? You can't spell fundraiser without fun. So we're all going to get together that afternoon for a couple of hours and bowl. We're going to bowl in teams. We're going to bowl to win prizes. We're going to bowl to have a great deal of fun. Joe, have you ever bowled before?
Oh, I have, and you know it.
I do.
Because you've watched me bowl.
But no, you were on my team, Joe.
That's right, absolutely.
And you know, we weren't half bad.
Well, you're being very generous and kind to me, but you were certainly are a much better bowler than I am. But then again, most people are better bowlers than I am.
That's probably true, and I just had a lot of practice at it because when I was young, I spent a lot of time at the lanes. But that said, you know, we certainly appreciated having you on the team. You got better as the season progressed, and you know, you spit the bit a couple of times because you just didn't feel that you were getting a lot out of that bowling thing. But the first time you broke 100, the first time you knocked a few pins down, you got a couple of strikes in a row. It kind of changed things, didn't it?
Yeah, you know, I as all things in life, I enjoyed it.
And, oh, by the way, for those of you that know a thing or two about bowling, his handicap wasn't a problem either because, you know, it was a handicap league. I'm not saying that Joe's handicapped, for crying out loud. I'm saying that in bowling terms, like in golf, you know, you get a handicap. And Joe's was rather high because he was a new bowler. And
yes.
as a result, we did good. So listen, here's the takeaway. If you would like to join us, please go to WMNF.org and sign up. You can join us. You can join us if you'd like to reach out to us, theconversation@gmail.com. Am I correct?
Correct.
There you
Yes.
go. Joey set that up for us. theconversation@gmail.com, and let us know you'd like to join us. We've got room on our team. We're going to have two teams, right? Joe, do
That's
you know
correct.
What is your team name, Joe?
The King's Court.
I love that. And my team's name, Joe? Nothing. He's got nothing. I'm looking at him.
The dude abides.
No,
I don't know.
that's the third team we're going to put together.
Yeah.
My team is Mario Brothers. Okay,
the
there
Mario
we go.
Brothers,
There we go.
of
So I'm looking
course.
for a Luigi. If you want to be my Luigi out there and you want to bowl on our team, this would be a great time to sign up. And rumor has it there are other teams that have been put together right here out of this studio, WMNF, Tampa, that are going to be competing with us. Is that true?
That's what I understand.
Is there anybody out there that knows of a thing or two about bowling and competing?
I think I might know a little something, man.
Excuse me, who might that be?
You are talking to the captain of the spaceship, DJ Spaceship himself.
Oh, no, we are not.
And me and my space cadets are coming to take the galaxy back.
Oh.
So I'm the Mario Brothers and
King's
whatever,
Court? King's
whatever
Court.
the King's who?
Court.
The King's Court.
Oh, King's Sport. Yeah, that sounds about right. So you guys just get ready, man. So, I mean, we're putting something together. I can't tell you everything that's going on, but I can tell you a lot about a little in a little bit of time.
Spaceship, you
there
just
we go.
better come correct because we, listen, when we put on our shoes and we bowl for score, we ain't playing.
Well, listen, I got my space cadets ready, so we putting some things together. So you guys just be there, be square. How about that?
Spaceship sounding like Captain Kirk now.
Let me tell you, the Spaceship has thrown down the gauntlet. We appreciate that. And if you'd like to be a participant in this event, like I said, it's going to be a lot of fun. You
The
can't.
Big Lebowski.
Yeah, and the dude's going to be there.
The dude abides.
We have it on good record that the dude abides, and he's going to be there. So if you'd like to see Spaceship competing in the King's Court, Court, Mario Brothers, and the other teams participate with us, please. WMNF.org.
It's going to be a fun event.
Send us a direct email at theconversation@gmail.com. Theconversation@gmail.com. So, Joe, as we do each and every week here, before we get started, after we did our little promotional, our PSA about our upcoming event, we do another segment here that's called Hey Joe or Hey King.
Yeah.
Hey King, as it were. King, anything new happened in the last week?
Well, you know, I think the political world has shifted in an interesting direction, don't you?
Has it ever? What is it? The tectonic plates have shifted, and the universe. There was a portal that opened up in the universe, and we out of the grasp of despair, came a bright light.
Yes,
and all of a sudden, I think a lot of us feel a lot lighter in heart. And
it's a step in the right direction.
A weight has been lifted off our shoulder. It's no secret that here at WMNF we promote all things progressive. I think it's safe to say we're on the left side of the dial, both figuratively and literally.
Well, for lots of reasons.
88.5.
Yes.
And look at your dial; it's on the left-hand side of the dial.
Yes.
So, give me your feeling.
Well,
on this, Joe.
I'm pleased to see that what I have been saying for a long time is I think that. The political party that supports diversity and
equity and inclusion
and love and equity has started to take back the narrative, and I think that is what's very important to do.
Yeah, when you start to seed that ground, and if you don't know how to recapture the flag, so to speak,
right,
then you're losing territory.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on the political landscape, that's dangerous. Mm-hmm. I think we were on the verge, on the precipice of going over the edge. We did not know what to do. We had no direction, and there was a lot of infighting. And all of a sudden, the clouds parted. And let's just say it up front that President Biden. I think he'll go down in history, and I'm not a presidential historian by any stretch, but I lived long enough to know that this was the most selfless act I think a political figure has done in our lifetime, certainly.
Yes, absolutely. It was a decision he made not only for his party but for the country, and I think that should be always remembered.
So do we make a petition now that they find a place on Mount Rushmore to start carving in the
well, I don't know about
fifth
that.
Bust?
But, I don't know about that.
I don't know. I think you'll find
there
out.
were attempts made to put Ronald Reagan on Rushmore at one point, but
you couldn't get the hair on there.
I don't know what the problem was.
The shaking head. I don't know.
Rushmore has its issues in itself. So there you go.
So Joe, would it be okay if I read a text message that I received after last week's show? Would that be okay? Can we do that now? And
Let's go for it.
And then we'll get into the show. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to join the conversation. What a great name for a podcast or a radio show. The numbers, let me give them to you now. You can call in at 813-239-9663. Send us a text at 813-433-0885. Always emails are welcome. DJ@WMNF.org. Jessica, our engineer extraordinaire, is standing by. She will let me know when we've got your email, and I will be glad to address it on the air. But after last week's show with Susan Jones, ay mi madre, Susan Valdez,
yes.
I do have a good friend that's Susan Jones, and I must be thinking about her. She's thinking about me. Susan Valdez, the Honorable Susan Valdez.
Yes.
State legislator. I received this text message. It says, to Mario and Joe King Carter, hosts of the great, let me read that again. Host of the great WMNF show, The Conversation. Congrats for another great informative interview with your guest, Susan Valdez. First, I really enjoyed and learned a lot from your last week's guest, telling a history of how prominent and important women were in Ybor supporting the Republic during the Spanish Civil War. That was our guest, Sarah McNamara, the week before, versus Franco's fascists, and women working side by side in the cigar factories with men, etc. Today's show with Susan, you, and Joe, recalling how inspirational teachers, your favorite teacher, were to you all, touched my heart. He continues to say, in case you didn't know, I taught language arts, English, and Spanish for 35 years in the Hillsborough County School System. I retired in 2010. I, like Susan, went to West Tampa Junior High and also graduated from Leto, but in 1970. Too much to text, but my fave teacher was a 7th grade English teacher, Mr. Lindsay. See how we always remember our favorite teachers? He said, Mario, I played baseball at West Tampa Little League through Senior League and played 1 year at Leto. So I agree with you that coaches were also teachers. I learned a lot from them, too. And not to forget, I also agree that even the school custodians, lunchroom workers were a part of our learning, and I applaud them all as well as the teachers. Thanks again for another great show. Tu amigo, Tito. Tito, thank you again for sending that heartwarming text. We so appreciate it. And, I guess we've already tacked away from the pick, as it were. But, Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick was a teacher, and he was a coach. Again, back to that theme about teachers and coaches, that they're such inspirational figures in our life. And listen, don't underestimate. I think he said this yesterday in his speech. Don't underestimate teachers. Don't ever underestimate teachers. You do so at your own risk.
Right.
So, Joe, you ready to start the show?
Sure.
Let's start the show in earnest. Let's get a bell ring. Let's start the show in earnest. And if you haven't guessed already, today's special guest is my co-host, Joe King Carter. We're going to tell his story today. I find his story captivating. I know it because I was there at the beginning of it when it started to reveal itself. And Joe's got a lot to say. We've already taken up way too much time, Joey.
Okay.
But we're gonna jump right into it. So, Joe Howden.
Yes.
The name of the name on your birth certificate to date.
Yes.
There's a story there. Joe,
Yes.
pick it up from the beginning.
Well, let me just say, first of all, that I'm currently writing about this, not because my story is so incredibly special and unique. What I've discovered, however, is, in fact, that it's very common in our society for people to feel lost in their roots and in their family. And so it's become sort of a special moment for me. And I know that you've been more excited about the idea of me coming and talking about this on air than maybe even I have. So I want folks out there to know this is not very much ego-driven. It's more because I believe that what's happened to me might help some other individuals who are lost. And so in that spirit, I'm more than willing to share. So let's start at the beginning.
There you go.
And bear with me, folks. I think you'll see how this all comes together. This starts with my mother, who was born in 1915 in Hayhira, Georgia, South Georgia, not far from Valdosta. She was ultimately the oldest of 9 children. And in the 3rd grade, her parents, my grandparents, pulled her out of school to help her mother, my grandmother, raise her siblings. This was not uncommon in that day. As long as you had your reading and writing, you were good to go.
Arithmetic.
Yeah.
The 3 R's.
So she began raising her own family. And soon thereafter, of course, she also had to work. There were no child labor laws. So my mother, by the time she was 8 and 9 years old, was working in the fields. She's working in the fields, and she's picking cotton and pole beans and snap peas and tobacco.
South Georgia. Many of the people she worked with, other farmers, were black people. And so in that process, a gift that she gave to me, that was a gift that was given to her by the universe, was that she had some great friendships with people who were black. And that, I think, translated for her to be a little different than the peer group she was in. Let's put it that way. Because there certainly was a lot of racism and bigotry. You said 1913, Joe, correct?
1915.
15, forgive me, I'm listening.
Yeah.
1915. And so she's a child in the height of the Jim Crow era.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
In the Deep South.
Absolutely. By the time she's 15 years old, the Great Depression begins, and her family, the Weldon family, my mother was born Eunice Louise Weldon. When she was her next brother in line, 2 years younger than her, could not speak her name correctly, so he started calling her his favorite thing, Honey. And so throughout my mother's life, she was known initially as Honey Weldon and then Honey Howden. Honey and her family left Georgia, fleeing the Depression, hoping to find money in Florida. And in that process, they moved to Bradenton, Florida, where I was born. The family was there for a little while. Eventually, they relocated to the Bartow Mulberry area because jobs were available in the phosphate mines and the phosphate industry. Now, the phosphate mine, for many of us today, we recognize the scarring of the landscape and the environmental horrors of that, but it did offer jobs to people at the time. She, however, was now she had worked her entire life. Now, at 20, she's a waitress in a restaurant. A man walks in one day named Joe Howden, and he is 35 years older than her. He's handsome for his age. He has some money, and he is certainly the most sophisticated person she had ever met. He was a Canadian who came here in 1930 with a little pile of money. Not sure where he made it exactly. And so... as they say, one thing led to another. I love that phrase. And they got married. This was not uncommon for women in her generation to find someone as a breadwinner. She even said to me early in life, she said, when I met your father, I didn't love him, but I learned to love him. And so now their life begins. For the next 19 to 20 years, she now doesn't have to work because they have a little money. They travel. They have a house in Bradenton, and they travel between here and Canada, his home country, and life is good. Then she becomes pregnant. Now, let's take this into consideration. She is now 40, and he is 75. I believe now, looking back through this time, that he was fully aware of the fact that this pregnancy was not his child. He signed on, however, and he stayed with the game. And I was born in Bradenton, Florida. And for the first 5 years, my life must have been idyllic because I had basically two people around me all the time who were not working.
1953.
1954. Yeah.
54, okay.
Yeah. And life was pretty good. Now, when I'm 5 years old, the man that I'm told is my father, and by the way, if you tell a child that man's your father, that child will believe that. We're very receptive of that kind of information, right? And so he's now 80, and I'm 5, and he is struck with arterial sclerosis, and he loses a leg, an amputation. And a year later, he loses his second leg. And by the time I'm 6 years old, the man who I'm being told is my father is in a wheelchair, and he's 81 years old. What happens next is a kind of dark part of my life, and that part is, I think trauma is maybe a good thing to share with people because I think that we all have trauma. And what happens is that my mother, who was fiercely intelligent but poorly educated, made executive decisions that sometimes weren't very good. And in that process, she had to work to pay the bills. She would work at night. He couldn't be left alone. She left me to be his sitter and his caretaker when I was 6 years old. So at the age of 6, I was dealing with a man who was now slipping into dementia. He had emotional problems. The only saving grace was that he was always frozen wherever he sat because he could not get around without help. And I am taking complete care of him. He's a 185-pound baby. I'm 6 years old. I'm putting my father on the bedpan. These are the things I'm doing. It's tough. Eventually, what happens in my life is I end up with a lot of issues much later in life because too much responsibility was put on my shoulders as a child, and it had ramifications. But that's maybe for another moment. So all this is happening, this kind of weird childhood that's idyllic on one side, mangoes are growing in the backyard, and there's this sort of monstrous activity happening inside the house. When I'm 6 or 7, a man starts showing up around the house, and his name is Carter. And his name is actually Ira Carter, but he is known to everybody as Carter. And he doesn't like his first name, Ira Carter. So in my hometown, he's either known as Carter or Mr. Carter. And he begins to show up. He is described to me by my mother as my father's best friend. However, I never see him and my father talking. And he always comes into the house when my father is in bed, which he can't come out on his own. So I think my little brain is beginning to slowly see some things. And there was a whole series of incidents that had to do with our relationship, I knew him well, Carter. He took me fishing. He took me to baseball games. And I always felt great affection from him.
Sort of like an uncle. Like an uncle that
Sort of like an uncle.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I wasn't really receiving the direct information. And keep in mind that what is happening is that my mother has constructed a complete narrative all around this about what has happened here. And it is airtight. So she is convinced me and everybody in the world that I am Joe Howden's son. I actually am a junior. I have his name.
You start school. You
I
start
start
school
school
registered
and I
as
become Joe Howden, and I live my life as Joe Howden. By the time I was 16, my mother had met someone else. When I was 13, Joe Howden died. My mother had met someone who represented, again, she had a 13-year-old son, and she needed a breadwinner. She met a man who I believe she loved, and they got married. Carter was pushed out of the picture. He is also married, by the way. So these two are both
with his own family.
They're attracted to each other. I believe they were both sort of in arranged marriages, by the way. Carter had a wife who had been arranged by his church because his wife, that he loved very much, died during childbirth. And so now he has babies with no wife, and so the church arranged the marriage.
So that gate that you're describing as women needing a breadwinner to help with supporting the family expenses,
Right.
that gate swung both ways because the
Yes.
man would now need a caregiver to help take care of the children.
Absolutely.
So this is not one-sided so much as it is just necessity, and it happens.
It's an
both
unusual
ways.
situation
Right.
when one thinks about it, that both of these individuals were in marriages that probably were not passion-filled. And when they met each other, that thing happened, that magical chemistry, and they became involved, and I was born. There's many incidents throughout my childhood indicated this, but of course, the lie was maintained. When I was 16 years old, after we had moved to another part of town, Carter came by a gas station where I was working to pay for my first car in high school, and he presented me with a sweater, and I discerned at that moment somehow that there was a relationship between us. I'd not seen him for 3 years, and my mother remarried when I was 13. I now somehow discerned that he was, in fact, my father. Probably the physical appearance also contributed greatly to that.
I would think so.
Yeah, so I'm now 16. I'm beginning to look more like a man. So now I live the next 51 years of my life as Joe Howden. I knew that if I confronted my mother, she would deny it. And I didn't want to put her in that position, to be honest with you. I never saw, after my 16th birthday, I never saw Carter again. Mm-hmm. And so...
you never saw him again?
I never saw him again. And so now I'm living my life in this way, all right? Mm-hmm. A number of years ago...
Was there anything that happened at that meeting at the service station when you saw him? You said he gave you a present. He gave you a gift.
Yeah,
he gave you that sweater. How did
it almost
what happened to you in that instance, in that moment that maybe you started the light bulb?
It was sort of a mystical. It was sort of a mystical moment, in fact, because he pulled up at the gas station, and in doing so. He got out of his car. He walked over with a box under his arm, a gift box, a shirt box with a bow on it. Mm-hmm. He said, "Hi, Joe." I said, "Hi, Carter." He presented the gift to me. He said, "Open it." He said, I looked at it. It was a sweater. He said, "It's your size and it matches your eyes." And he said, "Happy birthday." And a voice inside my head, whether it was of a metaphysical source or just my own subconscious putting all the facts together, a voice inside my head said, "This is your father." And interestingly, the voice also said, "You'll never see him again." And I never did. And
what a moment. I mean, what a moment for a 16-year-old child. Let's pause right there, give our fans a chance to think about that, and we will come back here in just a moment. We're looking for something, and we're going to find it here directly. But that's quite the moment for sure.
Yes.
As a 16-year-old child.
Right.
I personally, and the story, listen, for those of you listening and leaning into your radio right now, these are the headwaters of the big reveal, which Joe's just about to get to on the other side of this little break, that I think will have most of you floored with, if not certainly emotion, but it will, maybe even you can see something in yourself or in friends. This story is not isolated, Joe. You and I have had many a late night conversations about this, that this is not an isolated incident. It happens more frequently than people really realize. Well, we were going to play a station ID break for you. We'll do it here in just a few minutes. Don't worry. We'll come up with it in just a minute. So pick it up. Pick it up with the sweater.
Well, certainly I went. That was on the day of my birthday.
Okay.
I went home that evening with the box under my arm. I walked in the house. My mother, Honey, was preparing dinner. She said, "Oh, what's that?" I said, "Oh, it's a gift, a birthday gift." And she said, "Really?" Now, I know my mother incredibly well, and she was a dear soul in my life, the most supportive person in my life. And she certainly would have wanted to see what that gift was. And in that process, I said, "Carter stopped by and gave it to me." And she turned away and continued making dinner. She didn't even address it. So that's how those were the kinds of cues I was receiving. And over the next 51 years, I had a thing in my life I called the Carter box, and I would open it occasionally and look in and deal with feelings I had about all this, and then I would put it away. I think I sort of grew up, I wasn't close with my mother's family. My mother's family was not really an organized, close family, and so in that process, I didn't really know what families were about. It was just really sort of me and my mother and eventually my stepfather who were on the boat together, so to speak. And I thought that families were very much like the families I was reading about in books or I was seeing on television. And so
hang on just a minute.
Okay.
Joe, we're going to come right back, King. Going to come right back right after this.
This is Justin Peters, and you're listening to The Conversation with Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter on WMNF 88.5 Tampa.
Our dear friend Justin Peters. So I'm thinking, and we've had this conversation before, right about this time, and really up until this time, since you were sibling-less, right? You had good friends.
Only child.
Only child, sibling-less, and you had good friends in school, and you were a very affable young man and a boy, and you had a lot of friends. Mm-hmm. You showed artistic inclination when you were young, which was fostered by your mother, Honey, and consequently, so it's not like you were a sullen little kid moping around. You had friends, you had things to do, you had places to go.
Yes.
But when this reveal started to expose itself to you, and you must have been at that point going, okay, where is this all leading me? I'm going to spend the rest of my life maybe searching for different answers. How did that manifest itself? And what did that take out of you? What did that squeeze out of you?
One thing that happened was that trauma from childhood expressed itself by the time I was an adult, in me not wanting to have any responsibility in life. I married my high school sweetheart, and as the marriage began to evolve, I realized that, this is actually a responsibility, and there's going to be a mortgage and children, and it freaked me out. And so we divorced, and I ended up doing 4 years in therapy, and took with me the tools I continue to use today. In all of that, I didn't know how to address this Carter factor, because unlike today, I couldn't do 23andMe. Mm-hmm. And I thought, and I was about to explain earlier, because I had this sort of classic image of families in my mind that don't exist, by the way.
Television provided
television
that for
families.
You. Yeah, of course.
I thought, I'm going to go to this family and say, your father or your grandfather had an affair during his marriage, and you're going to say, I don't want to have anything to do with you. So that feeling was very prevalent for me. So I felt rejected, basically, in part. And I thought that I would never be able to deal with this. And I would just go through my life living a lie, essentially, understanding that there was an entire family out there that was mine, and that even my last name,
biological kin, folks
is
that
not
may have
accurate.
looked like
Right.
you,
Right.
may have thought like you, because
Yes,
one thing we know
absolutely.
about biology is that it doesn't lie.
Yes.
It doesn't lie.
Correct. So, shall we get to my genealogy?
I think the genealogy is good. Would you like me to read this one email that
Sure.
came through real quick? It's really, we received it a little bit ago, and it has to do with what we talked about at the top of the show, but genealogy, remember that. I'm going to read this. It says, "Hey, Mario and Joe, thanks for mentioning that Tim Walz is a teacher. As a retired educator, I feel excited and comforted that this man will be representing the Democratic Party in the upcoming election. I can only see good things ahead with 3 exclamation points. We won't go back with 3 more exclamation points. Your friend Barb Ziskowski." Again, teachers. We should not lose sight of the fact that they are not to be underestimated. Where would we be without them? And we're talking about public school teachers
How
now.
could society move forward without teachers? I mean, I think that there's an attempt to try to make it something that's being education is run somehow by machinery or technology. That's not going to happen.
So we're bringing back not only the joy in the political process, because, campaigns can be joyful. Running for political office should be. It's highly competitive, but it should be something, a celebration of democracy, number one. And number two, teachers. Just teachers and coaches. So,
Yes.
23andMe.
Well, so 51 years go by.
And you say that so but it does go by that fast.
It does.
And the whole time you're still you're still
For those of you out there who are under 40, let me clue you in.
Oh, yeah.
You'll realize how fast it goes by.
One of the 2 hosts of this radio show is about to celebrate his 50th anniversary from his high school graduation.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, I think it's me.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
there you
Joe.
go. So I developed over time a friendship with a dear friend of mine who lives in New Jersey. Her name is Susan Kaufman.
Shout out to Susan.
And Susan is married to Fritz, Dr. Fritz Kaufman, who teaches biophysics at Rutgers. And she's a big brain person, and so is he. And she, one of her sidelights is that she's involved in is genealogy. She reminds me that she's not a certified genealogist. Did I say geology?
Not to be
Genealogy.
confused with.
Yeah. But I tell you what, she's as good. She's pretty good. She's a highly skilled research person, and she takes genealogy very seriously. She basically came to me and said, let me do your tree. And I said, I'm not really connected to that. And so she decided, she said, well, she was basically what happened was that she was unrelenting. And finally, to sort of satisfy her desire to do my tree, I said, let's do it. So she started with my mother, Honey, and it was rather interesting. Turns out that I have my first relative on my Weldon, my mother's side, was here in the mid-1600s. His name was Gabriel Weldon from England, who was an Irishman, I think. And I thought it was all fascinating. So she said, well,
that explains the light hair and the blue eyes.
yeah, there you go.
Because you
Well,
were
of course.
blonde back in the day.
Yeah, so she says, let me do your father. And I said, well, that's complicated. Joe Howden was my father, but he wasn't my father. The real man was, my biological father was Carter. So she said, well, which do you want to do? And I said, well, maybe I'll get some medical information from, at least birth and death dates, at the very least. So let's do Carter. And she did. And then she presented me with that family tree. And I couldn't deal with it. And I put it aside, and I sat on it for 11 years. And I rarely regret things, but I regret that. And one reason is I could have known one of my brothers. 2.5 years ago, I was at a party, and you were at that party,
Yes,
by the
sir.
way.
Yes, sir.
On May 20th of 21, and I came home, and Susan said, I found a photo of your father. And I had not seen Carter since I was 16. and remember that I had a relationship with him of sorts. And so this is at 1 a.m. I looked at the clock, and I opened up the picture of my father, and I cried until 1:17, and that's a long time to cry. And sitting there in my own tears.
A few years in between. Those tears were coming.
Yes, and so, I said, you know what, I'm not going to take this to my grave. I'm going to do something about it. And so I immediately contact Susan, and I said, okay.
Open the gates.
Let's do it. How do we do it? She had helped others do this before, and she's certainly a more cautious person than I am. And so she coached me in how we might do this, reminding me that not everybody takes to this very easily, because some people might think that you're there for purposes that are not really honest. Maybe you want money. So basically I started stalking the Carter family. I stalked them on social media, and I found...
in a nice way.
In a pleasant way.
In a nice way.
Yeah, in a
respectful way.
I found that I have a nephew. I had a nephew in Jacksonville, Bruce Carter, that I had certain political connections with. Mm-hmm. We were similar kinds of people. But the connection actually happened through another nephew who happens to be named Jimmy Carter. It turns out that there's a lot of Jameses in my family, okay? My grandfather was a James, and my brother was a James, and I have a nephew. So it turns out that Carter had 4 children, two girls, 2 boys. They were all, he was 58 when I was born, so they were all adults when I was born. So basically my own siblings were the age of my parents.
Correct.
And this...
again, like uncles or aunts, rather than siblings.
But unfortunately, 3 of them are deceased. I have a sister who is still alive, who's 97 or 98, I believe. Mows her lawn, drives her car, intelligent, beautiful person. We connected for a period of time, but then unfortunately, she, because of her religious beliefs, somehow came to the conclusion that she shouldn't have contact with me. But that's okay, that's fine.
That religious got in there again.
Yeah,
religion
it's not good. And so, so there is that. There is all of that, and this has, and even I've even discovered that I am a remote cousin of President Jimmy Carter. I'm a Georgia Carter, basically. So all of this stuff happened. Now, imagine you're an only child, and suddenly you find out you have siblings. Imagine that you're an only child and you have no chance of ever being Uncle Joe to anyone. And now I am Uncle Joe to a huge number of people, because I am, in fact, the patriarch of the family. I'm the oldest guy at the top of the little tree there, right? So it's been an amazing experience. And in that process, I have received healing. There's a tremendous amount of healing. In contact with the Carters, I feared rejection. Instead, what they said was, "You've been out in the cold, son. Come on in," right?
How rewarding was that, Joe?
Oh, unbelievable.
More tears, I'm sure, more tears.
You just cannot imagine. And I have not interacted with anyone in my family that has been negative with me. Even my sister sort of broke up with me in a very civil way. She said, "I can't do this because of certain things in your lifestyle that my religion doesn't agree with." But it has been tremendously healing, transformative, and I owe a huge debt to Susan. Mm-hmm. Also, in that process, I have connected, just like you do in all families. I now see there are certain relatives I have now that I'm very connected to, others not so much. I have a niece named Lynn Pine, and my niece, who's older than I am, we are kindred spirits in a way that, in fact, I don't think I've ever known in my life. We are so similar in so many ways. She gets me, and I get her in these profound ways. We connect almost daily.
And that speaks to a bigger picture, because, and if you'd like to join us in the conversation, let me give you the number one more time. If you've got a question for Joe, if you've got a similar story that you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear that. 813-239-9663. You can text us at 813-433-0884. Always, 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 emails are open to you at dj@wmnf.org. Let me say that, Joe, we were with you at the beginning of this transformative experience in your life, and I know because it tormented you, and it really, you had the anger, the frustration, the angst that one could expect when these kinds of revelations kind of came out, and you didn't want to see it, you didn't want to step into it, you wanted to push it aside, but with love and encouragement, those that were around you at the time, you took the plunge, and again, I know you, Joe. I know you're happy that you did ultimately.
Well, you have to, I think that life teaches us that we must embrace our pains to move past them. It's not that you want to be dwelling on your trauma and pain, but you have to embrace it and move past it. What I was carrying around with me for many years was a lot of anger and I didn't even realize how much anger, and it started coming out, by the way, as I started making these connections, because I felt, my mother, who I have never been closer to a person than my mother, by the way.
Honey
Howden was an amazing woman in many ways, even though she made some unusual decisions. She lied to me. Now, did she lie to me
to protect you?
To protect me? Of course she did. Did she lie to me to protect her own
life story?
Life story? Yes, she did. But this is what people do. And so
it's a survival instinct.
And now I see that Joe Howden, who was really not much more than a source of pain for me, that Joe Howden and Ira Carter and Honey Howden, this trilogy of this group of people, were setting me onto a life path that has always embraced growth and always embraced these kinds of moments. And so I had this anger. I had that Carter box. I would open it up every now and then.
Right.
And I'd look inside and I'd see this poor little boy who this happened to him and that happened to him. So I really don't have a Carter box anymore. And what's happened is that all of this I now have, instead of being judgmental of my mother or judgmental of Carter,
tremendous understanding.
And now I have great compassion for the position that they were put in and what happened. And all of that has changed me in an amazing way. So much so that I am in the process of, I just haven't quite done it yet because you have to kind of do it all at once, but I'm going to.
I would think so.
I'm in the legal process, the changing of my name legally, because I am a Carter. And sometimes I will be walking through my house and I will say, I'm a Carter. It's sort of just, it flows
reaffirms.
out of me.
It
it's
reaffirms.
like a fount. Yeah.
Sure. I would think that you'd have to do that just because it feels good too.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say about all this, which is really the reason I wanted to share all of this today, is to say this. What I have discovered with Susan helping me and others is that there are a tremendous number of people out there with this issue. Now we know, of course we know, that there are blended families and there are families of adoption issues and there are families where, like in my case, children were maybe somehow illegitimate or they were lied to. And there is a number of pages on Facebook that are dedicated to this. There's one that's called DD Social, and it is people asking for help on how to find people, because understand that this takes great courage for you to reach out to a biological parent and say, hi, I'm here. And that parent might say, I didn't want you then, and I don't want you now. So you are someone who has suffered pain, and now you're willing to put your heart back out there to be exposed to pain. So what I want to say to people out there who are listening, who are fighting with this, and I know you're out there, it is something that you have to face with some kind of courage. And you have to make the decision of what are the losses and what is the possible gain and what does it mean? And what does it doesn't say anything about you as a person. If you contact somebody and they say, nah, I'm rejecting you.
I'm good.
Yeah. That doesn't mean that you have to be reflected upon by that. What it does mean is you tried. And that's what I think is important. It's also caused me to develop a huge appreciation for family and what that means. And it's also, as you touched on earlier, it's also caused me to have a whole different attitude about genetics, because I am now interacting with people that look like me, sound like me, think like me, and I can tell they do. And I have never known them before. And it's sort of like these studies of twins that are separated at birth and they come back together as adults. And let's say
they're both left-handed. They both
wear
glasses.
The same perfume or cologne.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you start.
They both study the same discipline in college.
Exactly. So, I think that we don't really understand how much DNA affects our existence. And I think that we want to believe that we are masters of our destiny, and we are. But how could you assume that your eye color and your height is controlled by DNA, but maybe your personality is not? I think that it might be. And I think that all of these factors are mixed together for me now that has made my life in a textural way richer because of all this.
And if you're just joining us, boy, you've missed an incredible hour of incredible radio. This is The Conversation on WMNF 88.5 FM Tampa, and we are talking today with my dear, dear friend and brother, Joe King Carter. And if you know the story, if you've been listening now, you know why we call him Joe King Carter. And we're all going to set up a GoFundMe page so that Joe can raise enough money. I'm being facetious. So maybe not. So he can raise enough money to go down to the courthouse and change his name officially. Just as long as that Social Security check gets there, Joey.
Yeah,
I'm thinking,
it's not a financial issue. It's really complex. It's very complex.
It is, yeah. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Social Security cards and driver's licenses
everything.
and all the official
every part of your life.
Yeah, all the official documentation, which leads me to another question as we surface from doing that deep dive here. Let me offer this palate cleanser to you. What was J.D. Vance thinking of? Because he's changed his name about 4 times. I mean,
yeah.
How does that work? And what does that say about a person that's got to change his name that many times?
Yeah, it makes me a little suspicious, because I can tell you that the decision for me to begin living under a new name was not easy. You would think that it would be easy, but it was not, because I knew that it would have some ramifications. He's done it in a way that appears not to be judgmental.
Contrived.
It's kind of casual.
Yeah, it's contrived.
I mean, how often do you change your name? If you're a performer, you might be performing under a stage name.
An alias?
Yeah, an alias.
A radio personality?
Of course, yeah.
But I will tell you this, and every time I hear the story, it gives me goosebumps, because, number one, incredible amount of courage on your behalf to be able to once again step into it, embrace it, and ultimately grow from it.
Well, thank you, Mario.
Yeah, no, of course, my brother, you know this. And the other part of it is, that little boy that was 5, 6, 7 years old that went through all that stuff. That never leaves you either. You
That's
may
true.
come to terms with it. You may go through therapy and realize how to deal with it, so to speak. But it never leaves you. So every once in a while, you might have a flashback, or you might have something that triggers you.
absolutely.
You have your triggering events. And, it's funny, we laugh about it now, but it was, I've been chasing you for a hot minute, man, to commit to doing a radio show with me, because I thought we had a lot to contribute to the community at large. And I couldn't pin your shoulders to the mat for nothing, man. It was like, no, I'm not going to because I got to show up every week. There's no chance. And this speaks to the commitment issue that you were talking about earlier. Because you had so much of it heaped on you when you were little that you just couldn't do anymore.
Well, I have a relationship of commitment. My therapy, as I evolved over the years, I became a person that was very capable of commitment. But I tell you, it did have a tremendous negative impact on my early life.
Well, we've got some emails here that maybe I should do a little shout out. Can we do a couple of these, Joe, before we
Go ahead.
Before we get out of here? Let me read
Absolutely.
them. I'd like to honor all the emails, because when we get them, we like to read them on the show. So this says, can't listen to the show, but you might want to remind people that the last day to request a vote by mail ballot in Pinellas County is Thursday, August 8 by 5 p.m. It only takes a couple of minutes to call the supervisor's office. And here's the number, 727-464-8683. Need to know the last 4 digits of your Social Security number and a few other easy things. This is, thanks for reading this message, John in Ozona. And John, thank you for the information, and also thanks
Good job, John.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I guess I should probably screen these emails before I read them aloud, but maybe not. It says, Louie in Lakeland, I'm a dad lying to my daughters. Okay, all right. I think that's what that says. I'm not sure if there's a punchline there, or it says there's more there, and there's a second one. Okay, my engineer producer is telling me read the other one because the other one is. Oh, wife cheated and does not want her to know. So there you go. Do I ring a bell on that, Joey?
Go ahead.
All right, let's ring a bell for the. Listen,
Families are complicated. Marriages are complicated.
families are complicated.
Biology is complicated.
Biology is complicated. Genealogy,
Yes.
not to be confused with geology. But geology is also complicated too. I mean, we should be honest about it. But listen, Joe, we're almost to the end of the hour here. And I just wanted to say, I know that I've been, dunning you. Look up that word. It really does mean I've been dunning him, to tell his story today.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important that we share this, not only because it's probably therapeutic for you, cathartic
Yes.
for you, but it also can help somebody. Somebody out there has been touched by your story today, and maybe they don't feel as alone today in their drama. And again, for sharing your story, because once you come out as Joe King Carter, just like the slogan going forward, we ain't going back, Joe. You ain't going back.
Well, it's given me the opportunity to people comment when I share my story with them.
Of course.
And then their story comes out. So I want to say, as someone who now advocates for this, on our email, on our Facebook page, theconversation@gmail.com. If you're someone out there who's struggling with this and you want to send me a personal message, please do.
Give them that email address.
Theconversation@gmail.com. It's as simple as can be. And reach out if you're having a problem, because I've counseled others in the last year or so on this, and I find that it's a very common issue out there.
Well, this has been a wonderful show. It has been an hour's worth of listening. We hope that you guys that have been out there listening to us have also felt like this was an hour well spent. We know you're out there listening, and sometimes, Joe, they just don't want to necessarily call to break the vibe of the conversation. I know because when I'm listening to compelling radio, I just want to listen, man. I just want to, what's the next thing they're going to say? Because I'm learning the whole time, and I'm growing from the experience. Thank you, my brother. Thank you for coming in today and sharing your story. I mean, you were going to come in anyway, because it's Wednesday at noon. What do we do Wednesday at noon?
I would be here.
We come into WMNF
But instead of a
Studios.
narrative, instead of a guest with a narrative, I guess I was the narrative guinea pig today.
And quite a narrative it was. So again, before we get out of here, we're going to leave here in just a couple of minutes. We've got a couple of events coming up, most notably on the 18th. Again, for those of you that like to stick your fingers in a bowling ball and would like to come out to the lanes and challenge us and bowl with us.
That's right.
And raise funds. It's all for a tremendously worthy cause, and we like to have fun too.
I think it's going to be great fun. I'm certainly not going to be representing there as a star athlete, so I'm there to have fun.
Yes, and rumor has it that the dude will be there. He'll be wearing his robe. Will he be high smoking weed? We don't know, but I know that in the movie, it was a and oh, by the way, we should probably sit and watch the movie again before the 18th,
probably,
just so we can capture a few of the classic lines from the movie.
That would be a labor of love, wouldn't it?
Yeah, where are you going after the show today, Joe?
I'm going to go practice bowling.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I'm going with you, man. I'm going with you. You ain't going alone. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going alone. We've got some great
I'll try to keep my mind out of the gutter.
Ding! There it is. There's nothing like a little bowling humor to send you on your way, to send you packing.
Yeah,
because that's right up our alley. Okay, we're not going to keep doing this. We're just not going to keep doing this. But I will say this. My last little political comment for the day. Hey, get involved.
Vote.
Get involved. Democracy depends on us. It's we the people. The people have the power. We do have the vote. And until and unless they take that away from us via Venezuela style,
yes,
or Cuba,
yes,
or Russia, then we still need to exercise our right. Don't get frustrated.
Vote, please.
Don't let the darkness overcome you. I think we're about to turn the corner now, and I think we're about to experience something different in our political conversation. Well, that word keeps popping up. Joe, any words in closing?
Well, I just say that I think that there is a new energy and a new feeling. But you know what, folks? we've got to go the go and fight the fight, as though we are not winning before we falsely begin to believe we are. So you got to vote, folks. Every vote counts.
There is a place that's going to be opening up here pretty soon. It's called Casa Karma. I'll do it right. Casa Kamala. And if you're politically active and you want to get involved, stay tuned. Reach out to us, theconversation@gmail.com, and we will give you all the details. On behalf of everybody that puts this show together, especially our engineer producer, Jessica, thank you so much. Stay tuned at 3 p.m. for Traffic Jam. DJ today will be Grant Hart. You are listening to WMNF Tampa.